Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well still. Thank you to those of you who signed on for the first week of the supplemental learning and did the work. Awesome job. And if you didn't have a chance to catch me during office hours, make sure that I'm only going to do like one day this week that's going to be longer, and then the other is going to be kind of shorter. So make sure that you pay attention to what I'm posting on Google Classroom so you can actually meet me at a time where I'll be available. Otherwise, I'll just try to answer your questions as much as I can through like email or Google Classroom. But anyway, I did promise I'd make a shorter video than the last one on this one, and it's really kind of a good thing if you turn into the first one that a lot of you seem to get how to do the graphing using slope and intercept. Because that is the same type of process you can use to be graphing inequalities in the coordinate plane. So what I'm going to do right here is just go back over the concept we were learning a little bit prior to the shutdown, which was the graphing inequalities and then solving systems of inequalities graphically. So let's say that I had me a inequality here. Let's say that it was y is greater than x plus 2. Now, if I were to graph that on the coordinate plane, I could use my slope and my intercept, right? So one thing I want to do is just plot the intercept first. There's my plus 2. I'm going to plot that right here. I'm going to turn this one a different color, actually. Why don't I go with, let's go with purple. So there's my plus 2 right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the slope here. I'm going to apply the slope. You notice there's no number next to x. That makes it a 1 because there's one x that you see there. So my slope is up 1 and then right 1. So that would be right here on this dot right here. And then let me go ahead and just connect those both with a line. Let's just do this. Call that the line about. Perfect. So there's my first line. And that's how you graph the first part of it. And the only other thing you need to do is shade according to the inequality. Now, one thing you notice is that there's no equal sign. Let's say that this, just for the sake of activity to start with here, before I get into the harder part, I'm going to make this greater than or equal to. There we go. So let's say this was greater than or equal to the x plus 2. What I'm going to go ahead and do is that's greater than symbol, and there's the equal to sign under it. So I keep this nice solid line, and I'm going to shade above the line because it's greater. So I'm going to just go ahead and color this all in here. Why don't I go ahead and make this thicker real quick. Here's a cool thing you can do with this. Pen size 6. Now look at that. So if you want to use this whiteboard app, you can do it like this. You do not have to use the whiteboard app because basically you can do this by hand. But yes, essentially that is how we would do that. I'm just going to go ahead and erase some of this right here. Just so you get the point, it is not below the line, it is only on the line and above that we want. Okay, now to solve a system of equations, let's say that I had a second system. Let's say that this one's y is less than negative 3 over 5x plus, no, minus 4. Let's go with that. Now what you notice is it's going to be different this time around. I'm going to go ahead and change colors so you know it's a different equation. I'm going to go with green on this one. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to the pen size. Let's make this smaller. And I'm going to go ahead and start plotting these guys. So minus 4 is where I start. There's my intercept. There's a minus 4. And my slope is negative 3 over 5. So I go down 3, which would be about right here, and right 5. So there's the 5, down 3 would be about right here from what I can see. There's my second point, right? Now I just connect this with an arrow line. Let's say that it's going to go like this. That's pretty good. Cool. Now what we notice here is that this is a less than, not a less than or equal to symbol. So what I want actually is a dotted line. I'm going to go ahead and change the size of this guy real quick. Let's make this into a dotted line. Basically, it's a dashed line is what I'm getting at. When you do this by hand, it's obviously going to be a little more efficient in this because you can just draw it as a dash. But you get the picture. This is not a solid line, right? This is a dashed line. Now, when I see this, this is a less than symbol. So what I want to do is shade below that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that marker. I'm going to thicken it up just like I did last time here for the sake of visuals. And I'm going to go ahead and shade below the line. And what's cool is this app, you can notice the color where they overlap there is blue. It kind of changes the colors. Now if you're a little hard of sight there, if you're a little colorblind or something, I'm going to go ahead and change this just to make it a lot more noticeable for you. We're going to make this, let's make this magenta right here. This area where both lines overlap, which would be right here in this square. You see how they both overlap right here? This one goes below the line and above this line. It's that square right here. That's your solution. That plane is where they intersect. Those are anything that's in that area would be the system solution. So basically, just to recap this thing, keep it under 10 minutes here. We plot the lines exactly the same way as last week. We start with the intercept, then we go slope. After that, you need to decide, is this a solid line or is it a dashed line? Solid lines have the equal sign underneath the inequality. It's that little line, just like the first one you see. The other types of inequalities without the equal to sign would be the less than or the greater than only. Those ones are dashed lines. Lastly, you decide if you want to shade above or below the line. If it's less than, it's below. If it's greater than, it's above. And the parts where they overlap would be your solutions. So what I'm going to do is give you some problems. I'm going to give you maybe 2 or 3 warm-ups just to graph the single inequalities, not the system solution, just to graph the inequality to practice that. And after that, for the remainder of your problems, you are going to be graphing to find the solution between 2 of them. And to find that, you basically just graph them both on the same graph, and the parts where they overlap, that magenta part as you see there, would be your solution. Awesome. If you guys have any questions, you guys let me know, and I will help you out this week.